Hello everyone, Ripple here, and for Mentor, I'm going to present a slide deck about advanced augment theory and decision making. Mostly this presentation is just going to be talking more deeply into the idea of what makes augments good, how to decide what to pick based on your spot, and how to really make the most out of your augment. You've probably already seen guides talking about just general how to pick your augment based on like types of augments and your situation. And this will just kind of go deeper into the idea of what makes an augment actually good or bad. Just as some background, I'm River Overdrive. I was a finalist at the Paris Open. I've been to the Americas regional finals a lot. Most sets I'm 1500 LP or more. And yeah, cool. So the topic of this presentation is mostly talking about how some augments are simply better than others. We used to have augment stats, they were removed, but it showed us clearly that some augments just perform way better than others uh, throughout like a really large sample of games, right? You compare one augment to another in the same type, like econ, combat, item, or traits, and you'll just realize some of them are auto picks, while some of them you should never pick. Pros often click certain augments way more if you watch them enough, and state that some augments are just OP. And last in set 16, Mortdog did a Monday meta report where he would even list out the augments that were outliers that were placing like a 4.3 or below. Um, so clearly there exists like augments that are just better than others, and you may be losing because even though you're picking like the right type of augment for your situation, you're simply picking like too weak of an augment. So the goals after this presentation are to really get better sense of what an augment's relative AVP should be. Just know like which ones feel good or bad. You should really have an understanding of like on tier list, why are some augments S tier and why are some like in the C tier. Um, Whenever they print new augments or buff or nerf them, hopefully you can have a sense of like if the augment is just really strong before the tier lists get updated fully, because people always need time to like try them out and confirm how strong they are. And also just understanding how to play around your augments well. Okay, so when we talk about how to evaluate augment strength, there's a few different things that I like to consider. We can talk about the raw value of it, just what it gives in terms of like items or gold or combat power, right? The generated or potential value, which is what you can use it to make more of. Like you can use some augments to win streak to make more gold, or some augments just let you make more interest, or depending on if you play around them more, they give you just way more money, right? Uh, Augments that have high like potential value are sometimes the best, because if you optimize around how you play around them, then it'll probably give you way more than like a very basic staple version of the augment. Uh, Also, there's spot alignment. So just like based on your spot in the game, are you weak? Are you strong? Or are you lacking? That will make then augment like better than its AVP or worse. After that, we can talk about stat utilization and comparing the value of augments and combat augments. So combat augments give a mix of different stats. Sometimes it's hard to tell which ones are actually good or bad, but once you start comparing them to each other and other augments that existed, you can start getting a sense of which augments probably give too much combat strength while others are just kind of underpowered. And then lastly, we'll talk about just random augments. A lot of people are kind of scared to pick random augments, but even though they are random, there is like an expected value and power in the augments. So um, hopefully after this discussion, you can have a better idea of why it's like reliable to actually click some of these random augments. Okay, so whenever you're encountered with an augment choice, think about what we're gonna. I'm pretty just gonna show a series of different augments, and we can compare them. And we're just gonna ask what would be a good spot for this augment, or what would be a bad spot, and maybe what other augment would you have. A lot of times when I'm studying the game with others or by myself, I will look at augments and just try to imagine when I want to click them. Um, this will make it easier so that once I actually get into a game and I have so many things going on and I have to select my augment, then I'll just have it preloaded like based on my situation, what augments are probably good, right? And the more you think about these situations and comparing them to each other, that's just how you build that internal sense of AVP for the augment. Okay, so here's our first example, thinking about like the raw value of augments. So 1, 2, 3 on the right is actually like a very base level. It gives you 2 1-cost champions, a 2-cost, and a 3-cost. So in total, that's 7 gold in units. You can sell these units or you can play them, right? But it is 7 gold in value. Meanwhile, Patience as a Virtue gains 4 rerolls immediately, so that's 8 gold in value. But it's a little less useful because you can't sell it to make econ, and it's not units you can play on your board. And each round you'll gain a free reroll, which is 2 gold, if you did not buy anything in your shop. So you can see that like in raw value, 1, 2, 3 is 7 gold. Well, Patience is 8. But 1, 2, 3, you make interest, you can play the units, while Patience, you can actually get like 2 gold per round, right? So you can see that even just like in the what it offers at a base, like Patience feels like it could be more. But yeah, we do have to consider that we can get more value as the game goes on. 1, 2, 3 kind of probably like fizzles out in value once you like either play or sell the units, but Patience you'll probably get rerolls for like the rest of the game, right? So that actually becomes like a lot of value. And Patience actually used to give 2 rerolls per turn, which was like super OP, which is why they had to nerf it. And was always considered like one of the best augments in the game, right? So just comparing these two augments together and how much gold that they're kind of giving in value is how we get a sense of like, oh, maybe 1, 2, 3 is just like not very good. You can probably compare 1, 2, 3 to other augments now and just see like, does it give me more or less than 7 gold in value? Um, if the situation that 1, 2, 3 might be good is if you could really use the units, like it gives you 2 1 costs. So you have a bunch of 1 cost pairs, you have a chance of upgrading them, or you just really like maybe you have an upgraded frontliner or backliner and you just need like a something else to accompany that, then maybe the 2 costs or the 3 costs can help. Or in the worst scenario, your board is really weak. You just need some econ. You can always take 1, 2, 3s to start making econ, right? Patience is a virtue. A good spot I would say to pick this is if you want to use the 4 rerolls immediately. So if you have a lot of rerolls, or maybe you want to play like a reroll comp, then you can use all those rerolls like on 2-1. On level 3, you probably upgrade a bunch of 1 costs, right? In 4 shops, you'll probably upgrade some 1 costs, maybe even some 2 costs. And that can actually just get you a really strong start that can maybe even win streak. Ideally you upgrade your board so you don't need to buy any units for a while, and then you can actually start getting the free rerolls as you're like chilling on your upgrades, right? Patience is probably a little worse when like you don't really have a use for the rerolls because you kind of just sit there and they're dead, or maybe you just don't have enough gold to like buy all the units. Okay, here's another example. So Swordsmith has been one of the best like item augments ever since it's been printed. It gives you 2 random sword items, so that is 4 total components, and they are sword items, so it's like a little more valuable for comps that run AD. But like you still have a chance of just getting like a Giant Slayer or a Gunblade that can work on AP units. And then Pandora's items, it gives you 2 components, so half as many, but it does randomize your components every turn, right? Just looking at this, like if you get 2 good items out of Swordsmith, then it is like worth double as much as Pandora's, right? Pandora's, the reason you take that is because you really want to look for specific items. If you manage your item economy well throughout the game, then hopefully your items should already be good, so you have less use out of Pandora's. But if there's some comp that has like a really specific set of items that they need, and maybe they need like 4 copies of a single component, then that's when you take Pandora's. That's when it becomes like more useful. But if you're not like fully taking advantage of the randomizing effect, then the raw value of Pandora's is actually really low when you compare it to Swordsmith. And that's why like, if you like play 100 games and then half of them on 4-2 you take Pandora's items and then half of them you take Swordsmith, your placements in the Swordsmith games will probably be way higher. Here's another example. So we have on the left Earth, which gives you a spat, and units holding spat items gain some stats, right? At its base, like some people would take this augment just so that they can force some spat comp, and the downside of that is that you do have to use another component to even create like the emblem with the spat, right? But you do get some extra stats. Meanwhile, Earth's Gambit gives you a component emblem immediately plus gold, and then it'll give you a spat or a pan based on if you win or lose the round. So like in terms of like component value, Earth's Gambit just gives you a whole other component, and it even gives you some gold. So it looks way better than Earth, but Earth does give you some combat stats. But the question is the combat stats on the spat really worth more than the extra component in the gold, right? Earth becomes way better when you already have emblems from some other source, like you're in Emblem Ensemble, or you have emblems from just another augment, right? But if you don't have that, then Earth actually might hurt your item economy, and you're really trading a lot just to get those like extra stats, right? Moving on, we can talk about a little more about the general and generated and potential value. So these are 2 strong augments you'll probably see people taking on 2-1 to play different lines. So grab bag, you can take on 2-1 and you can do like one or two things. Some people will just hold on to the dupes and then play some reroll comp and then use the 2 dupes on like the last copies of their 3-star. So they'll just hold the dupes on their bench for the whole game. Or they can make like a tempo play and then dupe a strong unit like a 2-cost or a 3-cost to upgrade them early and then try to win streak off that. So at a base, heroic grab bag gives 5 gold plus 2 lesser dupes, which, you know, a lesser dupe is 1 to 3 gold. Let's just assume it's 3 gold, so that's like 11 gold as a base, right? You can use that to start generating econ if you want. But if you actually like dupe a 3-cost and it lets you win streak, then you actually generate a lot more value out of it. Meanwhile, if you let the dupe sit on your bench, that's like 6 gold sitting on your bench that can't make interest, and is really not realized as any value until you use them to make your 3-stars, right? This could be worth it if like the comp you're rolling for 3-stars is super strong and kind of wins out. But otherwise, like I believe that, you know, 2-1 heroic grab bag, depending on the patch, is better for like the tempo play because it can actually generate more value than it's actually giving. And then we can look at savings account. It gives you only 2 gold immediately, but once you make 50 interest, it gains you 25 gold, which is a lot. And also it increases your maximum interest. So usually you take this and you lost streak and you just make a bunch of econ intervals. Once you start making the 6 and 7 econ interval, then you're generating even more value. And then you hit that big 25 gold spike, and it, you know, usually lets you do a pretty good like level 8 roll down for 1, or maybe you're playing 3-costs, you can probably 3-star pretty quickly in stage 4. So, you know, the way you play around savings count usually is you have to lost streak because you can't be buying units or leveling if you want to make the econ intervals. But if you do that, then you should have like a really good generated econ leading your opponents, because your opponents cannot be making the extra like 50, 60, some of the intervals like you. And also they don't get that like 25 gold boost, right? This is especially strong if you're in some gold opener or some portal that gives you starting gold, because you just start making that interest so much faster, right? Your grab bag, I'd say, is strong like in the duplicate for tempo example. If you do a 3-cost for tempo, it'd be strong if you have some really good slammable items, or you're in like component anvils where you have a lot of starting items. So, you know, just thinking about these two, like think about the situation that you're in. Savings account, you probably take it when your board is weak and you don't really want to try for a win streak at all. You prefer to lost streak, you take a savings account. Heroic grab bag, it can really be at one or the other. You can try to win streak by duping, or you can still like lost streak into reroll and just kind of hold on to the dupes. Okay, I think this is an interesting example. So heavy as the ground isn't even an econ augment, but it's a really strong item, especially in the early game, because the early game fights are really slow. Your unit usually stacks up a lot of AD and AP, or maybe you can put it on a tank that lives forever. This can be used to win streak, even if it's not like a crazy item on a unit later. If you won the first 5 rounds or 10 rounds because you have this super Archangels on your carry, then that actually generates a lot of value while also giving you just an item of value on your carry, right? You know, gain 21 gold just gives you a flat 21 gold. The way it can generate more value is that it helps you make econ intervals. So on 3-2, if you were at like 50 gold and you took this, then that's just a flat 21 gold because you're already making the maximum econ. But if you were super poor, like you were like level 630 or level 620, this actually starts making you even more money in econ intervals. So gain 21 gold, usually people ignore it because it's like pretty mid. But you know, if you really just need it to make econ intervals, then it can actually be pretty good. Okay, and then here's another example, kind of talking about how seeing how low value Pandora's items can be compared to other augments. So just like at treasure hunts, we look at a table, pretty much like there's like 4 different rounds that is going to give you stuff. It'll give you gold, items. Sometimes it gives you a spat, and it just gives you so much stuff throughout the game. Though it, you know, you need to spend gold to make stuff out of this, and that's why if you're playing it, you're usually playing reroll, so you don't mind spending the gold anyway. If it's any econ in Galaxy, this augment is like usually an insta click because it's so easy to proc to chest, and you're just gonna be getting way more stuff than anyone else. In terms of like a 2-1 gold augment, right? Like imagine like someone else has 2-1 Pandoras, it gives them 2 components. Treasure hunt probably gives you like 6 or 7 components worth of value over the course of the game. And if you make it to the end of the game with treasure hunt versus someone with Pandora's, you should just be way stronger than them. So let's just talk a little bit about now spot alignment. So thinking about your board, what you need, what kind of line you're playing towards. Here I have 2 augments that you can use to play reroll. Early Learnings is a strong combat augment that is for 1 cost. If you get to a completed like 3-star 1-cost board, and you have Early Learnings and your stacks in the late game, it's gonna be like one of the strongest combat augments possible, right? If you get to 5-1, that would be 15 rounds plus 8 base. you're getting 23 on every unit and then 46 AD and AP on every one cost, right? So that's just like insane amounts of value. The only challenge is that you have to hit your board without an econ augment early. So if you actually like either have a strong board early that can just win, like you already have some one cost upgrades, this would be good. Or if you're in some, again, like econ open or econ galaxy, or maybe you get econ from the set mechanics like gods, then earlier learnings can be taken and you'll still be able to hit your board. All right. Meanwhile, trade sector, if you're actually kind of poor, you just really need to like find a real comp to play or just any comp to play and hit your pairs. Then you take trade sector early because like say we only had like 1 or 2 copies of our one cost reroll. If we take earlier learnings and just like end up running out of gold and we can't hit, and then we're just gonna die anyway, right? Trade sector at least lets you hit it more on tempo. If you're missing copies, then you just need something, you just need gold to find your units. Trade sector is especially just good like generically if you have a lot of pairs early. You can upgrade your pairs and then you actually start win streaking and just save up your rolls. You don't have to play reroll trade sector. You can play like tempo into level 7 or level 8 comps and just use it whenever you think like it's valuable to use the free reroll. Okay, here's 2 augments that are meant for like leveling. So Birthday Reunion is meant for going level 9. You start off with a random 2-star 2 cost, so that is 5 gold, or I guess 6 gold in unit value, but you can sell it for 5 gold. When you reach level 7, you gain a TG, so that's a full item, and then when you reach level 9, you gain 2-star 5 costs. So you get the maximum value out of this when you get to level 9. The challenge is getting to level 9. If you're in like a high econ galaxy, then they'll make it a lot easier to just push levels. A lot of times you have to like sack stage 4 to go level 9, right? Also, if you just have a lot of upgrades early, like you can feel your board being strong, or maybe you have component anvils, then you can actually build a really strong board with the 2-star 2 cost, right? But if your board is weak and there's just not really great sources of econ, like it's just a normal econ game, then taking this can be really dangerous because you might not actually make yourself level 9, and then you'll probably just have like a lower value gold augment than other people, right? Cluttered Mind is going to give you a lot of XP throughout the game. It gives you 4 gold right off the bat. In one cost, if you have a lot of one cost pairs, it's going to be great for helping you upgrade them. And then like gain 3 XP per turn. I mean, if you make it to 5-1, proccing it every turn, that's 15 XP a stage, 45 XP over the course of the game. That is like crazy high amounts of value, right? You can get to level 9 playing Cluttered Mind, but it's not going to reward you with like a TG and a 2-star 5 cost. But I would say generically, it's like safer to do if you don't feel like you can win streak or your board is weak, right? So we do have to consider like usually the like augments like Cluttered Mind that just generically gives you some gold every turn is good when you're weak and you're not confident win streaking. Birthday Reunion kind of takes advantage of being strong and being able to win streak and pushing a lead. Because if you can push that lead all the way to level 9, then you should have more value out of your augment than other people. Here are 2 augments that give you kind of units and direction. So Backline Blueprint will give you a 3 cost carry and then an emblem that matches your trait. This is like there's a static pool of what you can get because there's only so many 3 cost carries. You would take this if like you think you can make a good board with the 3 cost carry and the emblem. If you have an upgraded carry that can use the emblem, that'd be good. If you have an upgraded frontline and you just need some kind of backline, then this will give you a 3 cost backliner to play, right? But if your board kind of sucks, you might be better off just taking like a generic econ augment, right? This gives you 3 gold plus an emblem, so that's like I would say in between, like it's like like just in terms of raw value, it's lower than normal gold augments. Like we already talked about Cluttered Mind, how much gold it can give you over the course of the game, right? So really like Backline Blueprint, to make the most out of it, you should be able to make like a strong board, and it gives you a direction, right? So hopefully you can win streak a bit and get a direction from that. Build a Bud gives you a 3-star 1 cost and 8 gold, so that's a lot of econ, and also you get a lot of tempo off of the unit. But you do have to be careful when picking this because you need to check one, like just scout around, can you even streak with a 3-star 1 cost? Because if you don't streak, then you're using a prismatic augment to gain 17 gold pretty much. Meanwhile, other people have hedge fund or level up or upper mobility, which gives way more value in terms of gold, right? If you lose streak with Build a Bud, then you're down like a whole prismatic augment. To avoid lose streaking with Build a Bud, you have to make sure you can even like itemize your Build a Bud well, right? So if you get like a carry, if you get AP or AD carry, hopefully you have a component that can go on them. Usually bow is a really good component because you make Void Staff, you can make Rage Blade, you can make Giant Slayer, you can make Last Whisper. If you don't have that component or just any offensive components, if you get an itemless 3-star carry, you might not actually be able to like be winning rounds, right? If you get a tank, it's probably okay if you don't have items for them, because say you have like a 3-star tank, but you actually have like, you know, a random backliner that has a rage blade, then you'll still be probably strong enough to win some rounds. But considering your item components, maybe you need to have component anvils is like especially good situation for build a bud, is, you know, really important. Talking about combat stats, so, you know, all the augments give like some different mix of stats. You'll see some pros probably pick some more than others. Some of them just avoid them a lot. Tons of stats is pretty unpopular. You'll only see some players pick this, I think. That's because it feels like it gives a really mid amount of stats. Like if you compare, you know, earlier learnings, we said if you get to stage 5, you have like 40 something 80 AP on your carries. Tons of stats gives you 4 80 AP on your carries, along with a little bit of armor magic resist. But it gives it to everyone, which is kind of nice. But the thing is, like on a board, like usually there's only a few really important units. So like, do you really care about the tons of stats and all of them, right? Really depends on your team composition if they even use tons of stats well. While early learnings like very clearly will give your strong 3-star 1 cost good stats. Just reading this side by side can try and give you an idea of like how powerful early learnings really is. And then let's just compare early learnings to Warlord's Honor, which is more generic, right? We can give every unit stacking 80 AP, go up to 4 times, so it goes up to 20, 80 in AP. So early learnings starts off with 8 and gives you 1 per turn on every unit, regardless of their cost, right? So after 12 rounds, early learnings is equivalent to Warlord's Honor for a unit that's not a 1 cost, and it's double the power of Warlord's Honor on a 1 cost, right? It's kind of interesting because you even try to say like, maybe I just pick early learnings as like a tempo combat augment. You probably wouldn't do that much because early game you usually prefer econ or items and then combat later. But it is interesting seeing that you compare these two augments that give exactly the same stats, how strong like one can be. Here are 2 augments that give damage amp. Bronze for Life 1 has been buffed and nerfed multiple times throughout its like lifetime. Right now it's in a weaker state, so it gives you 2% amp per bronze tier trait. Some of the, you know, low 8 boards, the most traits you can really get in it is maybe like 7. 8 is like really high, right? And if you have summon traits, you have 14 damage amp. Meanwhile, Glass Cannon gives you 25 damage amp at the cost of 80% health on your backline, right? But if you think about how fights go, like if your backline is getting hit, you're probably kind of dead. Is like the 300 HP on your carry worth getting 25% damage amp? Probably, especially if you have like a gunblade or some form of healing, right? Glass Cannon kind of just blows Bronze for Life out of the water in terms of combat power, and which and like, you know, compared to other combat augments, you know, some of them they probably exist somewhere in between Bronze for Life and Glass Cannon, right? But pretty much like you'll probably see a lot of pros like refuse to take Bronze for Life, at least in this state, because its comparative value to other combat augments is so low. Again, let's compare tons of stats to now a silver augment boxing lessons. It gives you 30 HP on everyone for each ally that starts in the front. So if you have the max number of allies in the front, which is 20 or which is 7, you'll get 210 HP on your whole team. Meanwhile, tons of stats gives you 44 HP. So the question is like 166 HP. How close is that to 4 and all the other stats? I would say it's pretty close in terms of like how much value you're getting. Which is crazy, right? Because like one is a silver augment and one is a gold augment. And then lastly, let's just talk a little bit about random augments. I think people are a little afraid of picking random augments sometimes because they're random. You don't really know where they're going to throw your game at. But when we think about just the expected value of the augments and what they can give, hopefully that makes you more comfortable taking them. So Spreading Roots and Trait Tree both give random emblems. Spreading Roots gives you 2. On 3-2, it'll give you 2 plus a Reforger, so you can reroll them. Trait Tree gives you 3 and Reforger on 2-1 and 3-2. These are some of the best augments in the game because, I mean, really, like, an emblem already gives some stats on its own. I would say, like, depending on the emblem, it would be like be somewhere between like maybe 0.4 to 0.8 of an item in terms of how much stats it gives, just in raw like 80 AP, HP, and whatnot. And then it gives the unit the trait, right? And that lets you play into whatever comp or trait that's go to the emblem. Sometimes the emblems are kind of bad and they don't really work well together, or they're just at traits that don't really play into good comps, but they are still like kind of, you know, some mid items that you can put in your units, right? So for a gold augment, you're getting like 2 really mid items, maybe that'll add up to in total like 1.5 items, which, like, if you think about the augment salvage bin, gives you 2 components, and then 3 later, then that is like kind of 1.5 items. But Spreading Roots has the potential upside of giving you emblems that play into actual good comps that synergize well together. Same with Trait Tree. You have 3 chances to get emblems that synergize well together and a Reforger to like fix them. So, and you get just 3 of these mid items in general. Like, just think about all the other prismatic augments that give items. Most of them only give maximum 2 items. Trait Tree gives you 3 like almost items. So, like, even if you can't find the perfect way to put them together, it can still be really strong. And that's why you'll probably see most people click it anyway. It will be kind of hard to figure it out. You might get a little dizzy, but I encourage you to pick them way more just because of how much value they give. Call to Chaos, I think like some people just consider a fun gambling augment, but honestly, it's sometimes one of the best augments that you can take. You look at the loot table, it'll either give you pretty much like some econ value, like gold, XP, rerolls, or it'll give you items, so full items, components, spats, rating items or TGs, and it can give you some combat power in pretty much an RNG golem, and the RNG golem is actually quite strong. So if you're ever in need of either of these resources of econ or items, then you can feel good about taking this because you're like, oh, if I can use that, then it's good. If you need like a combat augment because you already have all your items made and you already have enough money to hit your board, then this is not the augment for you. But a lot of times you'll probably need one or the other resource, and because this is random, it's actually designed to like give you more than another augment of the same type, right? If we just think about Band of Thieves, the prismatic augment that gives you 2 TGs and then later gives you a third one, this one gives you 3 TGs immediately. So it is pretty much higher value than that. Or like there is exclusive customization, gives you like 2 lucky item chests. This one gives you 3 lucky item chests, right? And if you just compare this to all the other elements of the same category, it will always give you something of higher value than the augment of the same category. The only thing is you don't know which one it's going to be, right? But if you can actually utilize the result well, then it's actually like an above average value augment. Here is some new augments added in set 17. So we have cognitive overload. I think this might actually just replace 21 gold or gain 21 gold, but pretty much it gives you like 21 gold of value in terms of gold, units, some XP, and a reroll. Really like baseline amount of econ, though they just kind of mix in some stuff. Meanwhile, Cosmic Restart gives you 2 random emblems and 8 free shop rerolls, but it sells your board and your bench. So it sells your board and your bench, so you're actually net even on gold at that point, and then gives you 2 random emblems. So pretty much you get Spreading Roots, and then you get 8 free shop rerolls, so that's 16 gold in terms of value on top of Spreading Roots. The only challenge is now you have to remake your board and play around the emblems, right? But if you think about how much value you're getting out of this, right? Because it sells your units, so you're not actually losing anything. I guess you're losing upgrades, but because it gives you like, yeah, pretty much a gold augment of Spreading Roots plus 16 rerolls, or 16 gold in rerolls. Compare that to Cognitive Overload, Cosmic Restart just has a way more value, right? But it's because it's random that they can make it have so much more value, and it's harder to play around. But in theory, if you can take this and play around it well, then you should be at an advantage compared to your opponents in terms of augment value. That's all I have for this. Hopefully you can think more about augment value and how how to evaluate if augments were strong or not, and why you should probably just click certain augments because they just give way more than other augments. And yeah, thanks for watching.